For more on what we can expect, we're joined by Congressman Mark Green, Republican from Tennessee. So, Congressman, welcome.
Thanks, Eric.
The Speaker, Pelosi and Senator Schumer, they both say, as well as the other Democrats, open the government first. As you know, the president has the power to do that. Then we'll sit down and negotiate. What's wrong with that stance?
Well, the president has made multiple offers to the left, to the leadership of the Democratic Party, and they just aren't accepting. They're not even negotiating. They won't sit down at the table. What proof does he have that they'll even talk if the government is opened up again? It's time for them to come to the table now. He's made another move, another offer, and they even walk away before the details of the plan are out there. So it's pretty disingenuous for them to say we're holding the government, or the president is holding the government hostage. He's coming to the table. They're not.
Well, do you think it also potentially could be the other way around? That, with that stance, they're saying, deal with the government shutdown now, and then we'll negotiate later on in the future, and you think there's no a chance of them being disingenuous about that?
There's no evidence that they want to negotiate at all. I mean, many offers have been made, and every time they walk away. So there's no reason for us to assume that they're even interested in negotiating
But
at
isn't
all.
that sitting down, having those meetings, isn't that, I mean, they've had them at the White House. Isn't that negotiating itself?
Well, this Saturday, he made his offer, and they basically refused. They, before the offer was even made, said, hey, we're not interested. This is a non-starter, were their words.
Why do you think they're taking that position?
I hope it's because they just don't see what's going on at the southern border. I hope. But if you look at what's going on, 300 Americans dying every week to heroin overdose, and 90% of the heroin coming across the southern border. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a physician. This is an arterial bleed, and we've got to put a tourniquet on it very quickly. And the president sees that, and that's why he's throwing these offers out there. The Democrats just don't see it, I guess, or either they don't care.
Well, the critics would say that a lot of that, most of the drugs that comes through ports of entry, that's not walked, over the border by undocumented immigrants. Well,
that's what we catch, right? So 90% of what we're catching coming across the border is through ports of entry. What about all the narcotics that we're not catching? You can't measure something that you don't know. So to suggest that just because 90% of what we've caught has come through ports of entry is all that's coming across the southern border, I think that's a little foolish and naive.
Now, meanwhile, Senator McConnell is going to bring the bill to the floor of the Senate this coming week. Do you think they will have those 7 Democratic votes to pass something? Because you would think that he wouldn't do it unless he had the votes in hand. You know how that operates. And
yeah.
What if he does? What if they pass something this week and then they kick it over to you guys in the House? What does Nancy Pelosi do then?
It's going to put a lot of pressure on her, and there's pressure coming from her on her from her caucus. I mean, we're talking with members of the Democrat Party, and they are, many of them, those particularly who are in Trump, districts that Trump won, are concerned because they're getting a lot of calls with concerns about border security and, of course, about the government.
What are they telling you? When you sit down with them, what do they say?
They want to negotiate, but they're not allowed to.
Not allowed to?
Yeah, I mean, they're not, their voice is not being heard. Those sort of moderate Democrats, their voice is not being heard by their leadership that has gone completely to the left,
well,
as far as you can imagine.
Some of those that you've talked to who say they're not allowed to, why don't they break? Do they?
We're working on them, Eric. We're working on them.
Can you explain something to me? Because in 2000, and I ask this question almost every time, in 2006, the Democrats, including then Senator Obama of Illinois, voted for the Secure Fence Act that put up the fence. Back in 2006, it was so far 654 miles of a fence. And I've been there. I've been down there, down in by El Paso and in New Mexico. You got 654 miles of fence, right? The president wants $5.7 billion for 234 miles of fence. That's 1/3 less than what the Democrats already voted for. He wants it in Laredo, Yuma, and the Rio Grande, just that little bitty part. Yeah. Why are the Democrats so insistent on not giving them the money for something that they've already voted on in the past?
Because they're more concerned about, protesting the personality in the White House than they are protecting the American people. They want an open border. It's a part of their agenda, and they'll put the people of America second to just protesting and standing against this president. It's sad and it's dangerous.
Well, many Democrats would take issue with your claim of an open border. They voted for billions of dollars for border security, but it is true that they are denying the president, saying a wall won't work for
Yeah,
those
it's pretty hypocritical.
234 miles. So they voted for that, basically the same thing in the past. Congressman, always good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Of course. Arthel?
Eric.